for context, of course, there's lots of budgeting applications, types of products that are, available wherever, mobile, web applications, etc. Our thought process fundamentally is we want to help every person. Like, sure, we need to understand about that person, things like, their income, have them connect relevant accounts in the same way like a budgeting type of app would. But it's really like, what do we do with that information? So in this beginning part, which is on my screen now, as you can see, like I put in my email, obviously for anyone from Winston, whether you have a Winston email or not, it all ties up to like sort of Winston as an employer, because we have information at the employer level, like 401k plan details and things like that. So I know a lot of people have already gone through this sort of like put in your email, put in the code to verify your access. So this is all just like little onboarding things where we're just gathering basic info that can then be used for things like calculations of budgeting, right? Like obviously my annual income will then help determine, okay, what is like sort of my monthly income, which then can tie into, okay, my budget, how much am I spending? Am I going over or not? Now moving forward, like after this initial set of questions, we ask every user to connect their relevant accounts. So right now, all of that is done through a company called Plaid, which is like basically used in any kind of financial product uses Plaid for the most part. So you can connect bank accounts, credit cards, like loan type of accounts. So like I have a Subaru car loan, so I can connect that. And then once I do that, it's able to kind of analyze all of my data. Tell me, for example, here, and this is a test account, so that's why it says like test institution instead of like TD Bank checking account, something like that. But once I do that, it kind of gives me an estimate of my income. Obviously, I can adjust it if it's incorrect, because it's not always going to be perfect, since month over month might be different. And then there's a few more things in here. So for example, like if you have a 401k at Winston and you connect it, you might get a message like this where it's saying like, hey, I see that you connected a 401k account. Is this your Winston 401k? Because it might be a 401k from a previous employer too, right? So just getting those kinds of details is the core initial part of this onboarding. And then, sometimes there's accounts that you can't connect, that just don't work, which happens. Like, for example, Apple credit card. I have an Apple credit card, but Apple doesn't support it. So I can't actually connect it fully. So then I would have to like put in my balance manually. And so gives you the chance to do that. And then ultimately, like with this, we have the foundation set up. Now, our idea is like, after this, we want to give everyone a sense of like, hey, what are types of things you can do with MasterFi? So we show like, you can get some charts. Here's an example of like a chart where it's showing my net worth, assets, liabilities, breakdown of types of account values in total, things like that. You can ask it questions like, what were my stocks performance the last 3 months? You can ask it like, hey, help me run an analysis of like my home affordability and what would be sort of ideal safe zone, maybe too much of a stretch at this point in time based on your data. So we just tried to show in the onboarding like a few different types of things you can do, but nothing crazy. You can skip this as well. So yeah, that's like the general overview of the onboarding. And, overall, our idea is we don't want to be just an AI product that like you as a user can just search or like write questions to, and that's it. Like where you have to think about everything. Like we want to use the knowledge that Jack brings forward in terms of like, how can, as a certified financial planner, like how can we help each person analyze, their whole financial outlook, understand like what are the priorities, and like actually help everyone like take action step by step. Obviously nothing's overnight, and it's continuing evolution, but like how can we take like the appropriate sort of like action? So obviously, like, yeah, if your emergency fund is at 3 months, which is pretty good, but you have high interest debt, then great. Yeah, we want to drive and help you like recognize that and support you in like addressing that, taking that action related to the debt, which might tie into, of course, like, okay, how can we find the money in the budget somehow? Like, is there something that can be done? So there's those, of course, like natural interconnections and dependencies. And we want to make a product that like just helps a person go through and do that without making it complicated.
Hey, Alejandro, I was just putting a couple notes in chat. I mean, my takeaway from a non-technical perspective, Alejandro, and the team have been working on this really deeply, but as someone that has worked with a bunch of these different tools, I think also a lot of people may have not used AI. It's still something that is, that people can have concerns around. I think the thing that is the most interesting about MasterFi is one, it's completely secure. So it's not like you're putting your data up on OpenAI where it's available in the public. This is a secure space. Your accounts, whether you attach them automatically or you manually upload, approximate numbers of your finances, that's all secure and not shared with anyone. And the goal of this is to really just put a personal wealth manager in your pocket. So as opposed to, managing in another tool, this allows you to do it on the go in iOS or in WhatsApp. And you can do everything from optimizing your 401k, building an emergency fund, getting a strategy for tackling credit card debt, really anything you can imagine from a finance perspective, this can go after. And the added benefit is that it's integrated with your employee benefits at your company. So it understands what your 401k match is. And some of the other features we're building are understanding all the other employee benefits that are attached to you as a member of your company. So anything it recommends, it can be specific to your specific benefits to optimize and make sure you're getting the most out of your employee benefits as an employee. So it's different in the way that we are trying to very closely integrate with employers and make sure that you're able to optimize your benefits and ask really any sort of question of MasterFi that you want to. So I thought I would add that in there, Alejandro.
Sean, Alejandro, one thing I'll add to that, just to take it a step further in terms of security and compliance, I do want to let everybody know MasterFi is both SOC 2 compliant as well as ISO compliant. And a lot of people are familiar with organizations, companies like Venmo, Coinbase, Robinhood. People might buy stocks and trade on Robinhood, and they might send money with friends via Venmo. When you integrate your accounts, what you're doing, for example, if you say, I want to attach my bank account to Venmo so I can send and receive money, you are doing it by an agent called Plaid. And Plaid may be a name that you're familiar with, maybe you're not, but I personally used the Venmo for quite a while without really knowing what Plaid was a while back. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up because when you integrate your accounts, whether it's savings, checking, 401k, old IRA accounts, what you're doing is you're integrating them the exact same way that you are with Venmo, which is by Plaid, the agent that we have chosen. So therefore, we do have bank grade encryption and security. So when we say it's safe, it truly is safe. It's just as safe as using a Venmo through the bank grade encryption. Now, why is this important? A lot of people have asked the question, can I enter accounts manually? The answer is you can. We're not doing that necessarily widespread through pilots, but the answer is that MasterFi will have that capability to enter accounts manually one at a time. Why does it behoove you to do it by Plaid? The reason is it will pull in obviously all information in terms of all income, all expenses, as well as categorically what those expenses are. So are they for health? Are they for entertainment? Are they for vehicle? Are they taxes? What could it be? And the reason why this is so important is because when it came to the start of building MasterFi, and we asked what are some of the most important things that MasterFi addresses in America when it comes to personal finance, number one is helping people get out of debt. First and foremost, by far, bar none. So getting out of debt requires us to build a budget, because if we meet a person where they are at and that person says, I want to fund my 401k, I want to buy a new home, I want to get a new car, I want to fund college educations for my children, but I have this debt that's been looming for a long time. I have credit card debt, it's 18, 22, 24%, and I really just don't know how to get out of debt. In order to integrate with Plaid, if you do that, we have the very quick ability to help you identify how you're budgeting, where the areas of improvement are, and therefore we can help you identify how to create a surplus in your budget, which becomes known as disposable income. The disposable income creation is the number one key to being able to attack whatever those goals are. So if we're constantly in debt and we don't have disposable income, we are not going to be able to start putting together the emergency fund or putting down money for a down payment on a home, saving for college, or increasing, say, our 401k contribution. So just to be super clear, Sean, when you say we're secure, I want people to know that we're using Plaid. It's the same agent behind many different applications or integrations that people are already using. It is bank-grade encryption, it is SOC 2, it is ISO, and it is the fastest and easiest way for a person to build a budget, find disposable income, and to start attacking the financial goals you say are most important to you.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Again, general or specific to your usage, or should I show, otherwise I can show one more thing related to the action plan that gets generated as a function of all the information, both the data and just like answers to basic questions during the onboarding, which is kind of like the core of how MasterFi operates over time. Okay, so last thing I wanted to show then here is once you answer some of those initial questions and integrate your accounts, you'll be able to see something like this. We call it a financial health dashboard, but basically just, hey, quick pulse on most important types of like metrics information. And it tells a story, right? Like, so in my case here, it's telling me I have 4.2 months of an emergency fund, which is calculated based on my spending as an input variable. In this case, I'm already matching my 401k like match, which obviously doesn't apply to everyone. How much am I spending in terms of discretionary spending to Jack's point about budgeting, and like how much am I saving from the last few months as a percentage? So I'm saving 5%. With that, the core of sort of how we orient everyone on a personalized level is this action plan. And so based on all of that data, based on all of your answers, we basically spin up using CFP guidance of like, hey, what is the priorities and what's the best course of action? Sort of like your own action plan that's prioritized. So in my case, as you saw, like I'm spending 45.7% on my discretionary spending, which is, not necessary. It depends, I guess, on how much I spend on my essentials, like rent and things like that. But it's not, crazy, but sure, it might be, it's certainly a little bit above like an ideal, right? But that ideal isn't always achievable. But nonetheless, like, hey, this is your first thing to look at. After that, in my case, it's showing me my retirement. Okay, next priority. I don't have a lot of high interest debt, so that's why you see that lower. But my retirement is not quite on, it's not on track sort of with like a benchmark. Again, everyone's different, but the point is here, like trying to drive that action as the next kind of priority. And then it goes from there. So our philosophy overall is we always want to help every person like have a rubric that's based on like best practices, so that, you aren't just using some product and you don't know what to do. And like ultimately it's like, we want to help make a plan and then support you in that plan over time. And that plan will of course evolve as the data comes in, as things change. It might be for better or for worse. My emergency fund might go down because I had to pay for something. Well, then it will evolve to be like, okay, your emergency fund is back to like lower than ideal. Let's reprioritize that versus the other variables. So that's kind of, that's what I wanted to share about this kind of core engine that drives everything over time in an iterative fashion.
Yeah, so Alejandro, let's just stop there and see what people think, feel, or have questions about with regards to the creation of a tailored action plan. Lauren, you're the only person who's on video and your mute is off, so I might have to pick on you.
I haven't tried out anything yet, so I'm really just kind of listening and seeing what everything is available and what's to offer. I do like it. It seems very interesting. So I'm just trying to play with it right now and get it set up.
No worries.
Lauren, if it's okay, I'd love to ask you just, like from your own personal opinion, and you could say, I don't want to answer that, or you could say, yeah, my thoughts are, just, to you, if you could speak confidentially, to MasterFi, and no human's ever going to know what you would talk about, what are some of the things you think either for yourself or your friends or your peers are most important? Like, what are you finding people are worrying about the most, stresses about the most about money? If they could learn 1, 2, or 3 things to help them make more money to be able to do more of what they want, what are the things that come to mind?
Retirement is probably number one for most people. I think that's the hardest, is setting a goal for retirement. And that's pretty important these days. So that's one thing I'm definitely interested in. And there's other people, I'm sure, too, that would feel the same way.
So one of the things we did, I'll comment on this because as you mentioned, Lauren, it's a big one, and you're actually exactly correct. So the number one demanded employee benefit in America right now, it has been 401k. It used to be health insurance, then it was 401k, essentially retirement. It could be 403b if you work at a nonprofit, and it's very quickly becoming holistic personal finance help. So one of the things I would say is for everybody on this call, since our firm is the one that manages the 401k plan at Winston, definitely connect with one of our advisors. What they will do is they'll walk you through one-on-one a playbook. And that playbook covers everything from how do you log into the record keeper? How do you forecast your retirement? Where do you get the information from to plug in to the record keeping system to forecast your retirement, to figure out how much should I be saving? You might look at that number, and I'm just going to throw out an example. You might say, well, I can afford to put away 5%, but you might run the forecast and figure out that you need to put away 15%. And some people will say, oh my God, this is overwhelming. I'm so far off from where I should be. My answer to that question or that concern is, this is actually great. The sooner a person knows the number they need to get to, we can start asking, well, what do I need to do in order to bridge that gap? The job of MasterFi and the job of our advisors is to help people think through exactly what needs to be done, whether it's with 401k, emergency funds, debt, budgeting, etc., to help you get from where you are to where you're saying you want to be. The conversation that one of our advisors will have will also include what your contribution amount should be, contribution type, whether it's traditional or Roth. We will help you think through things like your risk tolerance. We do that by filling out 2 risk profiles. So we'll help you figure out if you should not be in a target date fund based on just your age, then what should you be invested in? So we'll help you figure out your allocation. A huge miss in the United States is properly selecting beneficiaries. So maybe it's a primary beneficiary, a contingent, maybe it's your children, maybe your children are minors. Minors can't inherit money without having a legal guardian in most states. So therefore, who is that legal guardian? Do we really want that person making money decisions for our kids? The answer sometimes is no. We love them. They're a great person, but they're not great with money. So we help think through beneficiaries. We have taken that exact same conversation that certified financial planners have with participants at Winston, and we have automated that so you can have that exact same conversation any time of day that you want. Could be midnight, and you can talk about those exact things and get answers that are personalized to you. The reason why we built that one first, Lauren, is again, because you're correct. It's one of the most demanded things in America is how do I get on track for retirement? Most people will have Social Security in whatever they save for themselves the day that they retire. And that's why 401ks and 403bs are so important, because a lot of people say, I simply am going to need more money than what Social Security alone will provide. So as you get to using MasterFi, I would say become definitely someone who has gone through and completes the 401k module. I think Lauren froze. Hopefully she heard the answer. Okay. Anybody else? Questions based on what you're hearing or thinking right now? Lauren, you're currently unmuted.
There we go. Sorry, I got kicked off. I live kind of in the jungle, so it's reception's pretty spotty.
What was the last thing that you heard?
Basically talking about
You heard the beneficiaries part, right?
yeah, the beneficiaries. Yeah, that was
Yes.
about it.
So the beneficiaries, and also the one thing I didn't mention is if a person has an old IRA or an old 401k from a previous employer and they want to consolidate their accounts, have one advisor, one record keeping system, one statement, one login, and make sure that everything is in alignment. That's the conversation that we typically have a 401k participant. What I was saying is that exact conversation we have actually coded into MasterFi. So if you go through the 401k module in MasterFi, you will actually be able to have that exact same conversation, either by text in iOS or by WhatsApp, any time of day you prefer. So I was just suggesting that, for those who are hyper-focused on retirement and am I ready, our goal is to help America, the whole country, figure out and get to a point of what we call a fully funded retirement. And essentially what that means is that when a person gets to a point in their life where they say, hey, I'm 60, I'm 62, I'm 65, whatever your number is, I want to be able to no longer have to show up to a place of brick and mortar or remote and exchange my time for a paycheck in order to make money. I want to be able to do whatever I want every day, but I still need to receive a paycheck, which will be Social Security, maybe a pension, maybe it's real estate income, but also IRAs, 401ks. Those sources collectively need to create a certain amount of money per month that allows a person to live life on their terms. So the forecasting tool is what helps us figure out today, what is that number for a person a number of years in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
So Alejandro, one of the things that I'm thinking might be helpful is, when I'm looking at the screen of the dynamic action plan and we see 5 things listed, one of the pieces of feedback that we got is it's a lot of text. It's a lot to read. And most people are visual learners. So one of the things that I wanted to let people know who have joined the call more recently than when we first started is this is a pilot. We're building a product. It's an extraordinary product. It's going to become more extraordinary in time. One of the things that we have coming down the pipe is we have an employee dashboard. And the employee dashboard is something that actually takes the information from the conversations with MasterFi and creates a physical display and representation with categories of key performance indicators based on what is most important to you. So Alejandro, as you know, we've been told many times, this is great. It's extremely accurate. It's precise in its numbers. It tells me exactly what I need to do, but man, it's a lot to consume. It's a lot to understand. So I think one thing that we could do is if we could show people what the employee dashboard is looking like, even in, our minimum viable product, just so people can see what's coming and how they'll be able to interact with MasterFi in the future. You will be able to, number one, folks, always continue to speak with MasterFi either in iOS or WhatsApp. You'll also be able to speak with MasterFi within our web app as well as our mobile app, and then be able to see on both of those a representation and a dashboard of the conversations that you've had.
Yeah, that sounds good. I just wanted to mention too that as is kind of evident, there's a structure to a certain extent with kind of the onboarding and then a prioritization of kind of what things to focus on. That's all well and good, but nonetheless, you want to just ask questions too, you can do that. So let me an example here is I just kind of reviewed my budget and went through and identified some areas where I could, maybe save money. But I just asked it like a very general question of like, hey, like basically I'm asking it to analyze my budget. What are the biggest problem areas that I could, look at as ways to improve? So in this case, with this person, they're spending 20% of their income on Amazon. So obviously that's probably above an ideal. I'm spending 17% on my food. So it's giving me like a high level, but then, some specifics, right? Like whatever it may be. So you can kind of ask anything you want about any topic, related. Another one, just to give an example, I said like, what can I do for my grocery spending? I spent $1,000 last month, and I put in a joke that I feel like doesn't help that I shop sometimes at whole paycheck, as I like to call it. But nonetheless, it just, gave me some useful pointers, things like that. For me, I need to stay away from fancy hummus and make it myself. That would probably save me $30 a month. So, just wanted to point that out as a general rule of thumb for everyone to know.
Alejandro, now, I think one thing that would be extraordinarily important too, just as we kind of share with people about MasterFi. So one of the things that MasterFi is going to do in the future is actual product suggestions. So we want to, for those who want to have MasterFi always looking and seeing how we can help, we are eventually going to have geofencing and geotexting. So if a person says, I want to be geofenced and I want to be geotexted when I walk into places of retail. So like when I walk into the grocery store, text me and let me know things I would want to know. So for example, if we see that, through the Plaid integration, a person is always buying, let's just say some certain brand of chicken and it's a certain price, MasterFi knows that. You might walk through, we know that you're grocery shopping. MasterFi might say, and make up the name, hey, John, I see that you're at Trader Joe's. You know that you typically buy this. It's usually $9.99 a pound. By the way, it's only $5.99 a pound today. And for the next 2 days, you might want to buy an extra bag or two and therefore save $8 in the next 4 weeks on this one item. So being able to think on behalf of our user and share information with them in live time is super relevant to what they're doing in that moment with product suggestions is coming down the pipe as well. That will be a feature. A person can just say, yes, I want that, or don't bother me when I'm in a store. But the way that we think about it, to give everybody an idea, like in the original days of MasterFi, is we had this idea. We say, imagine a person walks into, for example, Walmart, and we say, hey, John, what are you here to buy? And John says, I'm buying a new TV. And we say, great, which one are you thinking about buying? He says, I want this 65-inch ultra high def TV, and explains exactly what it is. And we say, okay, we know which one that is. That's $499 today at Walmart. It's also $499 at Best Buy, but just so you know, it's $399 in 14 days from now at Target. Would you like us to remind you in 13 days from now to go buy it in 14 days at Target and save $100? He would say yes or no. And then we want to integrate with a calendar, set a reminder, and help that person save $100 on an item that's important to him or her. So coming down the pipe will be product suggestions we know are relevant to the user based on integrations of what that person is buying or is planning to buy.
And I see in the chat a comment from Mary. Thank you, Mary. You got frustrated with the sign up. I haven't seen your specific case, but what we have seen just across the board for some people has been connecting your accounts has been challenging, and a part of it is there's a little bit more friction because it's like in this chat, and then you click on this link and you go to like a separate, browser screen, and then you come back. So part of that we are working on resolving, just trying to make the language more clear because it can be more clear. And then secondarily, we see like these types of processes that are, at least from what we've seen with everyone, some of everyone at Winston and other companies so far, like there is some inherent additional friction just because of the interface. And we we imagine like making that a lot easier by like being able to do this in a web application, and obviously then in a mobile application, it'll just be more intuitive, like a Venmo to what you shared, Mary. So thanks for your comment on that.
Yeah, we really appreciate this feedback, because obviously having a product that can really help people is awesome. But if someone's not using it because we have too much friction in the process of signing up, my question to everybody here is, anything that you experience, would you please let us know what it is, whether you like it, love it, hate it, it's too much friction, it's too difficult. The whole purpose of a pilot is to figure out what's not working well, what's slowing people down, what's not fun, what's not lucrative, what's not easy, and to change those things so they become all of the above. So please don't feel bad if you don't like a feature. We absolutely want to know about it. That's actually what the most helpful thing to us is. We have another question that just came in, just asking, could you ask the app to find jobs or positions based on how you want your financial future to look like? Just like the example of a grocery store. So the one thing I will say about MasterFi and our team of coders is that we have the ability to build anything that we want. It's an extraordinarily talented group of people that come from some of the largest Fortune 100 companies that we have here in the world, and serious members of those teams. So therefore, one thing we have to think about is when we instruct our team to build something, we really want to make sure that it's the most important work and it's going to add the most value. So Alejandro, what I think we do with this is we have not built out necessarily a custom module or custom integrations, with like an Indeed or a monster.com. But in terms of could we easily, it would take time, but could we easily and fairly quickly build something that has integration to figure out what that person should be looking at for job positions? The answer is absolutely yes. And Alejandro, I think what we do is, we take note of that in terms of what's most important to people. And, if someone says, hey, here's my financial position, here's what I'm good at, here's my skill set, MasterFi, go search Indeed, go search Monster, come back to me and show me only jobs above X that are going to help me accomplish, finding the right job with the right amount of money as fast as possible.
I'll also add that I've used this to go off script quite a bit. So as I've used MasterFi, you can ask it pretty much any question you want. Now we've set it up to take you through specific modules that are based around a financial action plan to kind of optimize your financial future. But there's, again, nothing stopping you from asking those types of questions. It's really well trained, and I've asked it tons of questions, even about, things I'm doing on the side, and it's actually been really fantastic to work with it. So, if you were using, if anyone's ever used, any other tool like this, this is specifically trained on financial excellence. It's built on a lot of the same, it's built on the concepts that Jack and JM Arbor set up towards, wealth management for very, very high net worth individuals. And so being able to leverage that data set for a wide range of questions, I find myself asking it lots of different things throughout the day. So managing all the modules and filling it out and actually getting it done for your specific financial action plan, I think is hugely important, but there's certainly nothing stopping you from asking it other questions as well. You should treat it as if you were talking to a person that was incredibly financially literate and you wanted to ask them anything. It's really quite cool how it works.
Yep.
There's a good question go for it, Alejandro. What separates MasterFi from apps like ChatGPT as well as Perplexity? I mean, they already exist and they're great for things like this. What makes MasterFi stand out from these companies?
Alejandro,
you
take us down?
Yeah, so a few things. Number one, obviously like those big players, big companies, you can't really integrate like your financial data, and certainly it's not pulling that over time. Obviously, like it does a good job if you have like a spreadsheet of, your budget, you give it a good prompt to analyze it, evaluate places where you might be overspending, that anything like that, or analyze my investment, break down and mix stuff like that. The main thing with what we're doing is this is something that evolves with the user over time. So like, in my example, like a month down the road, I meet my emergency fund goal of 3 months, like a baseline goal. Awesome. Yeah, I'll get notified about that. And then I'll be driven to like another, like, what is the next best thing I can / is the suggestion thing to do. It'll be able to generate me insights like on a weekly, monthly basis. Of course, about like things that are happening in my accounts. Might be a change in my investment account where it went up and like being excited about that. Or it might be, hey, your high interest debt increased by $500 like this last month, like, whatever it may be there. And then actually helping the user, like helping the person, like, what should I do with that information, right? Like, okay, well, let's not focus on the 401k contribution this month. Let's put that to the high interest debt because that's costing you more money than you can get in return. So basically it's like here to be a companion that evolves over time with the person, surfacing relevant insights, and obviously like just helping someone like just like keep taking action, because obviously none of this is a one-time thing. It's recurring. There's always stuff to do. But what that stuff is, and getting into the weeds will change.
Couple of things I would add to that, Brandon. I appreciate the question very much. So number one, when we talk to investors, for example, about MasterFi, I always ask, are you guys an AI wrapper? Meaning, are you just utilizing ChatGPT or Anthropic or Gemini? And the answer is 100% no. We are not an AI wrapper. We are a multi-agent system, and we have built completely custom conversation modules based on being certified financial planners and chartered financial consultants. And we have taken the playbooks that we've built over 17 years as a wealth advisory firm that we have for conversations one-on-one with individuals, and we have coded those into MasterFi to be able to have those exact same conversations at scale with millions of people at the exact same time. That's number one. Number two, we have the ability to query at any time ChatGPT, Anthropic, Gemini, any large language model that we want. The next thing is that with the integrations with number one, Plaid, we can pull in all financial flows. So meaning all income earned, all money going out categorically. Therefore, we can build a budget for a person. We can give them predictive and agentic ideas in terms of what they should do in order to get from point A to point B. Alejandro will show today a dashboard, and the dashboard to me is extraordinarily valuable because it shows people what they've talked about in a very like aesthetically pleasing and beautiful format and easy to understand format. So they can see, okay, I've talked to MasterFi about building a budget, getting out of debt, buying my first home. With each one of those tiles, let's just say buying a home, each one of those tiles or KPIs being a clickable tile that will then say, here's what you need to do in order to prepare for buying the home that you've described to us is your quote unquote dream home. So that's a pretty big deal. The other thing is that for employers, MasterFi is a very big deal because 72% of America works for a company and has access to a number of benefits, and they're either unaware that that benefit exists, they're not sure of the details, or they're not really sure how to access it or best utilize it. So MasterFi, in addition to the 401k, will also soon be able to consume and receive documents from the employer, whether it's health insurance, short-term disability, long-term disability. It will be able to consume all that information. And at any time, you will be able to query MasterFi and say, hey, I know I have health insurance offered to me through my employer, but what's the entry date? What's the deductible? Is a certain drug covered by the formulary? It could be anything. And then the other thing that this does, I think is a very big deal, is the dynamic action plan. The dynamic action plan, if you sit with somebody like myself, who's a certified financial planner, chartered financial consultant, licensed fiduciary, Series 65, the best any human being can do is say, give me all of the data. Tell me everything that you can about you. And then I'm going to give you ideas about how you can go from point A to point B in the smartest, most intelligent, cost-efficient, tax-efficient manner possible. MasterFi gets rid of what I call the I think moment, where the advisor says, well, Brandon, I think what you should do based on all the data that you provided is you should do X, Y, and Z. MasterFi doesn't think anything. MasterFi just simply says, for you to go from A to B and to accomplish the goal of buying that home and fully funding your retirement and, helping fund college education and all the other things that you want to do, here is the order of operations that you would follow to get all of those goals while considering the others at the exact same time. Get all those goals accomplished literally as fast as humanly possible. There's no waste of time. And there's no calculations that are going to be, based on one idea. It will be in order to get people, it already is, to get people what is most important to them as quickly as possible with very clear, actionable steps. And as a person lives their life and goes throughout the day and makes purchases and earns more money or earns bonuses, these dynamic action plans are updated. That is one of the huge benefits of the Plaid integration. Sean, is there anything on our product roadmap that you would add to this that 100% differentiates us from, a Perplexity or a ChatGPT or an Anthropic or Gemini?
Yeah, the one thing we're working on right now in the benefits hub, I'm sure I don't want to talk down on anybody's intranet sites. I've worked at some very big companies, and every intranet site is always a little bit underwhelming. Whether you're trying to access different forms or different rules or whatever it may be, your benefits, getting dug into whatever it is you're trying to find. You're either spending some time on your intranet trying to find it, or you're reaching out to HR and leveraging their time to ask those types of questions. The other feature that we're building out now is what we're calling the benefits hub, where on top of all of your employee benefits, understanding your 401k, understanding all the different benefits you have as an employee, we also want to start consuming all of your most important intranet documents. So if you're onboarding a new employee, if you're looking to have a question on any sort of minutia about, a company policy or anything like that, you'll be able to query MasterFi for that as well. So not only will it be able to manage your personal finances, integrate your finances to optimize your employer benefits, but also in a broader sense, understand everything available to you as an employee with your employer. And you'll also be able to view that through your employee dashboard. So long-term, this employee dashboard that's coming really becomes the bulwark where you can see in a single view, unlike you could do on a ChatGPT or Perplexity, everything you've accomplished in terms of closing out your modules and then your financial goals. And then kind of on the go, this chat feature, you'd be able to ask anything that your employer has, as well as anything financially to help move you forward. So we're really looking for that holistic capability. I know personally, in terms of anyone that's written SOPs for new employee onboarding or anything like that, there's a big component that we believe can be offloaded into this, that we can build a certain module and you can have an approach to say, hey, here are the different types of questions, log on the MasterFi, it'll direct you to all the right questions, and it'll actually make sure that you have access to these documents anytime you need them.
Great. Alejandro, do you want to do a little demonstration of what's coming on this employee dashboard?
Yeah. So there's a lot of text on here. Disregard the details, but ultimately what we're doing now is, we have the chat that of course has its value, but how do we roll that up so that anyone in a web application and then pretty soon thereafter, obviously a mobile application, can see kind of a few things. Number one would be what's the most important things that I need to look at? It might be a new weekly update that contains an analysis of last week's spending or some other kind of outlier events. Hey, you just got a bonus. I saw you just got a bonus. Let's help you figure out what are you going to do with that bonus that best meets your goals. So that's kind of a key part of this future application. Another aspect of it you can kind of see here in the middle is this idea of we have these different categories of what we call modules, but just think of it as aspects of personal finance, debt, emergency fund, savings, budgeting, investing, that kind of stuff. Have you completed that sort of at least initial process, or what is the updates related to that topic? Making it easier to do onboarding There's like things like, okay, we'll definitely make a better like onboarding checklist type of clear experience so that more user friendly. And also like, how have your like key data points changed, right? Like, okay, my monthly cash flow went up 2.8% in the last few months compared to the previous, like, and then I could chat about it, right? I could be like, okay, well, what happened there? Or, you know, MasterFi can prompt to be like, okay, you have this extra cash flow, like, let's make sure you're allocating it in the best way. Like, you know, what makes sense for you. So it kind of shows you top level information. And then the idea is obviously you can drill down and see more details. So for example, like, of course, all like kind of the main data, seeing data over time, being able to chat with that of like, hey, why did my, let me look at like why my spending went up last month. Like what were the differences between September and August, so that I can like assess like, okay, was it something one-off or did I just spend more on stuff? What happened? So that's the broad overview of sort of what we're doing. And the last part of this is like, we want to be able to surface insights to you as a user. That's like, not just random easy stuff, like interesting insights. Like my example of, hey, you just got a new bonus. Like I saw you just got like a large sum that's, you know, different than what was the normal kind of pattern that gets recognized. Let's figure out what to do with that. Or like, hey, I see you have three subscriptions for, you know, whatever, some kind of topic, entertainment, you know, video entertainment, Netflix, Hulu, whatever. You could cut one, you know, you could save $150 this year just by doing that. Like, do you want to do that? Like, so we want to bring interesting insights that are forward looking to just make it where you can get more value and like just achieve the end goal faster.
Hey, one thing else I wanted to add in here about what's on the roadmap, a really important feature that I forgot to mention that we are actively working on, looking to get, you know, in place probably early next year, is it's one thing when you're talking to an AI tool, talking about something else that is different, a differentiator from OpenAI, to say, hey, you know, we think you should increase your 401k by 2%, or we think you could save this money here by making this decision. It leaves the next steps to the user to make the change. What we are working on is integrating so that if you tell MasterFi, yes, I want to increase my 401k contribution by 1%, it will actually send a notice to your 401k administrator to reach out to you to confirm that you want to make the change, so that it simplifies that process for you. So any of these types of decisions that you're looking to make, this is not just a tool to advise you on, you know, hey, yeah, we think you should do this, which is a fantastic offering and obviously gives you a lot of insight that you wouldn't have without it. But to take that next step and actually drive that email to that administrator that can then reach out to you and make the change, we are working on how to implement that for your, starting with the 401k, and then how do we expand into other benefits, whether it's opening a life insurance policy or, you know, requoting a mortgage. I mean, we're really trying to integrate this so that ultimately you can talk to this and then it can really act like it could be very agentic and actually go make that email to your administrator. You'll get a note from them the next day. And it's also much better for the administrator because then they know you're interested in talking to them and they'll come to you prepared and ready to go to make the decision. So very powerful capability there that we're working on that I forgot to mention.
Awesome. Alejandro, I think that wraps it up for today. We're over time. I want to thank everybody from Winston for being here, for your questions, for your feedback. And we ask that you please keep the feedback coming. The only way that this is going to become better in terms of serving you with regards to what's most important to you is to share that feedback. So please send it anytime. We'll make sure that you have our email addresses and you can send that feedback whenever you feel is best for you. Thank you again for being here and we appreciate your time.